Hey guys, since we are not able to meet in person today, I would like to go over documents B2 and C from our Treaty of Versailles DBQ. Just give you a quick rundown. We will spend more time on these in class, but I wanted to go over them today. For some of you, it'll be a little bit of review. For some of you, we're working ahead. So either way, be paying close attention. Bear in mind that what I put on my document analysis forms is not necessarily what you would put. It doesn't need to be exact, but you can always come back and watch this video and get information from it as we move forward with our DBQ. So let's take a look at document B2. We have a political cartoon in German, and what it's showing us, if we use our translations over to the right, we can look at our key and see that what it's showing us is the active soldiers that countries have and the reserve soldiers that countries have. Obviously, you have Germany in the middle of the map, but some of its neighbors are on here too, and this is right after the treaty, the situation that Germany finds itself in. So Poland, for example, has over 3 million soldiers. Czechoslovakia has over 1 million. Germany itself, as we already know, has 100,000. Belgium has over 600,000. And France has over 5 million. But let's look at Belgium versus Germany for a minute. Belgium is a little tiny country. So in 1920, they have over 600,000 soldiers. And Germany has only 100,000. Compared to the millions that they had previously. If I'm a German citizen, I'm going to be a little nervous. I'm going to be a little scared. If little tiny Belgium could just invade and take over, what could the big countries do? Especially like France and England, who we know are not our biggest fans right now. And I think that's what this cartoonist is trying to show us, is that this seems unfair to Germany. They're nervous about it. But let's look a little deeper. What's with the size of these soldiers? Notice how they have different sizes. You can see Belgium's about yay high. Poland's a bit taller. France is tallest of all. It's symbolizing the strength of the troops versus the little tiny German soldier here. Not only that, but look at this chain that France is holding and is connected to the other countries. So this is showing how Germany is surrounded by powerful enemies who are loyal to France, at least from the opinion of this cartoonist. So if you're a German citizen, how are you feeling right now? Probably pretty scared, probably pretty unhappy with the situation. Now, looking at our document analysis sheet, I know most of you do not have it in front of you today because, as I said in class, it just helps me sleep better to know that I have them and they won't get lost. If you do have it with you, you can have it out. You can be borrowing ideas like we've said. Remember, though, this is not document A. Okay, this is not document A, so I do want you to have taken a shot at it for yourself. Don't just copy exactly what I have. But let's share some ideas here. Title of my document is Troop Levels 1920, as it says on your document in your DBQ packet. Using context, using critical thinking, kind of putting the pieces together. We don't have a name for our author, but we can surmise that he's a German newspaper cartoonist. We know the publication date is 1920. And we're going to call this a secondary document because it appeared in the newspaper after the treaty. I know I already told some of you that I could see this going primary or secondary, and that's still true, but I'm going to put secondary on this version. Our source is a German newspaper. And our author has a pro-German point of view. He's against the treaty. He wants Germany to be strong, and he sees military strength as part of that. Okay, so I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying we need to acknowledge that that bias is there. So the big fact for my say box that I'm pulling from it is going to be something that I kind of put together. Remember, when we have maps and political cartoons and things like that, you can't just take a direct quote, but you can just put into words what the document is trying to tell you. So for say here, I'm putting German troops 100,000 compared to the neighbors' millions. Well, what does that mean? Let's translate that. Let's make it understandable and have some inference. Germany's military was heavily restricted by the treaty, and this artist is showing how upset the German people were by this. Okay, so this artist in a lot of ways is speaking for the German people. He wouldn't be putting this in the newspaper if other people didn't feel the same way. We know for a fact that they're heavily restricted, but now we can see the opinion side of it, the emotion side of it. The German people are not cool with this situation. It's making them nervous, making them uneasy. Now for my matter box, let's put it all together. Let's think about, why is this important? How does it answer the question? So my first step is to turn the question into a statement. My question, of course, throughout the DBQ is, how did the Treaty of Versailles help cause World War II? So I'm starting my sentence off, the Treaty of Versailles helped cause World War II because, and now I'm going to take the information from my say and my mean and what I saw in the cartoon, and I'm going to put it all together. The German military had been substantially reduced, which led to insecurity among Germans and distrust towards their neighboring countries. Okay? There's no outright tension or fighting or animosity between them and their neighbors right now, but they are definitely feeling that sense that they don't trust their neighbors. They don't trust what's going on in the 1920s. Remember, if you're watching this outside of class, maybe later on Thursday or Friday or whenever, you can always pause to get what you need. Let's take a look at document C. Oh, wait, what bucket should B2 go in? Here you have my favorite basketball player, Colin Sexton. He gets buckets. So Dora the Explorer time. Yell at your screen. No one's going to hear you, but yell at your screen. What bucket should this go in? Very good. Military restrictions. Okay, we're organizing our evidence so we can make a case. Like a detective, we got to have our evidence organized. So we're going to put this one in military restrictions. Now let's look at document C. What you have here, first of all, I threw in this picture. This is a real picture. There were some kids stacking up piles of German money called Deutschmarks because it was basically worthless. Inflation had gotten so bad that their money was basically no good. Okay, inflation is what happens when the value of your money goes down and you can't buy as much with it as you could before. So before we look at document C itself, let's check out our background information here. The Allies required Germany to make compensation for all damage done to the civilian population of the Allied powers. Okay, that comes from Article 233 of the treaty. These payments are known as reparations. The amount and timeline for payments was determined by an inter-Allied commission. Payments began May 1st, 1921, as stated in the treaty. So Germany has to pay back money to the Allied nations for the war. So let's do some annotating. I'm highlighting my source with my titles. I'm also going to highlight my note there and my note at the bottom. I put a circle around West Germany with my second color in case I need to look up what is that afterwards, because I'm kind of curious. You know, if I'm a sixth grader and I haven't heard of West Germany and I don't know what that's talking about, I might want to check that out later. We have deduced that this is a secondary source for two reasons. It's coming from books that were written about this situation, which obviously makes it secondary. And then the chart itself is made from those books, so definitely secondary. I'm putting a circle around the original amount required, that 226 billion. I underlined marks because I wasn't sure what that meant, and then as I stated previously, that's German money. That's their word for like dollars. All right, and then that math I did in my head, it took them 91 years to pay the full amount of money. 91 years. That's crazy. And I'm putting a star by the German responses and payments because that's, I think, the most important information here. And I think you guys would agree. The anger and humiliation, the fact that Hitler stopped the payments, that's what's important here in answering our question. So let's fill out our document analysis sheet. Title of my document is going to be chart compiled from various sources. I think I told some of you to put the book titles there, and that's even better than what I have here. I just couldn't make it fit for this video. This is not one that will be staying on my YouTube page very long after we finish this assignment. My authors are Keynes and me. I want to make a grammar joke here, but their names really are Keynes and me. The date of the document is 1919 and 1920. We said it was a secondary source. The information did come from those two books, The Economic Consequences of the Peace and The End of Order, Versailles 1919. As I've discussed with some of you, I do think there's probably a little bit of bias and point of view in here. But when you think about the fact that like Keynes was an economist, and these guys are Americans, you know, commenting on how the treaty was unfair to Germany, I think you get a pretty balanced opinion here. So not really any bias that we need to be careful of. So for say, the big facts that I pulled away. All right, number one, 1933, Hitler comes to power and stops all reparations and payments, or all reparations payments. Remember, he did some shady stuff to get in power, but he also was very popular. So that's an inference that I'm going to keep in mind when I translate this from my mean. Hitler's decision to stop the payments demonstrates how Germans did not feel the reparations were fair or want to pay them. So that was his action, but a lot of Germans felt that way. Okay? Remember, most of them are not aware yet that he's a bad guy. They're just hearing him talk about how much he hates the treaty and he wants to improve the situation in Germany. That's what they know about him in 1933. So they're on board with that. So to put it all together, to pick out what's important and to answer my question for matter, again, I'm going to start my sentence off. The Treaty of Versailles helped cause World War II because, and then bringing it all together, I'm going to say Germany's refusal and inability to pay suggests humiliation and anger and a cause for World War II. I mean, if they're not going to pay that money and they know they're not going to pay it and the rest of the world knows that they're not going to pay it, that's going to lead to problems. And so the German people are going to be thinking, hey, we need to get ready for that. They're going to want the treaty to be honored. Again, if you're watching this in class, we're going to keep going. If you're watching it later, you can always pause to get your info. So document C, what bucket are we going to put it in? What was it about? It's Dora the Explorer time. Call it out. What bucket should it go in? I'll do it when Colin hits the basket. Boom. Economic reparations. Economic reparations, that money that they had to pay as part of the treaty. All right. That's what we have for today. Tomorrow, we are going to do document D in class. You're going to do it totally by yourself, and you're going to turn it in. So bring your A game.